You know, it's almost like your birthday with a package from China, so let's go. But let's take a close look at the dual boot. So when you're removing the SD card, it just basically uses the Android functionality. But I did notice they did some improvements in the last couple of years with the GT King. So if you want to see a full review about the Android box itself for 2021, I can make it for you guys. So let me know in the comments. But for now, let's take a close look at the system itself when it comes to the retro games. Alright, so you don't need any configuration when it comes to controller and MU-ELEC. Everything has been set up for you. Just plug in the dongle, plug in the controller and you're ready to go. And we can also play some Super Console X. But let's take a close look at the menu itself. So first of all, MU-ELEC is a piece of software that you can just freely download from the internet. It's an interface that all includes the emulators that you're going to need for setting up your own Android system. What does this mean? If you're going to get a compatible box, Android box, you can just basically download the software, add the stuff to it, and you can just make it yourself. Take that in consideration. But what can we play with it? We can play a lot of stuff, really old school stuff, 8-bit, 16-bit, and I will not test it out in this video because it will run just fine. We're going to get like performance mixed bag situations where we're going to look it up a little bit higher with PlayStation Portable, stuff like that. That is what we're going to try out because this king of the boxes needs to support it all. So that's what we're going to test out. So first off, let's play some Sony PlayStation Portable and let's see how will that work on the GT King. Next up, let's try this system. And the reason why I'm very curious about this, because with the Max Edition and previous model it didn't run that great. The struggles it had, it doesn't appear to be with the Super Console X King Edition. So the King is the king when it comes to playing this game. Why do I get this feeling all my buttons are not mapped correctly? Oh no, my controller just stopped working. Ah, crap. Alright, next up. I don't know what this flickering is, but that is not like it should be. So the FPS is in this game better. I can still see some minor hiccups. The flicking is really annoying. But again, I think like the only thing that can run PlayStation Portable decent enough is an Nvidia Shield. Okay, I think this thing costs only the half of an Nvidia Shield. But again, it's more up to you if you can live with minor hiccups with a game like this. But this means like two-dimensional games run just fine on the Super Console X King Edition. Okay, so let's try out this game first, especially for my buddy from the Pandori team. So Tim, you're always a big fan of this game, so I was more like, why not test it out? Oh man, there we're going to get the first dip. And this is exactly what I mean. When it comes to the PlayStation Portable, even with the GT King, it struggles. But I can tell you, like, if you're having a cheaper system or a Super Console X normal edition, you cannot even run it normally. If you can live with the dip downs, you can still play PlayStation Portable. And the reason I start this game from the start on, like the intro part, normally with other Android boxes, you notice like we're going to get a lot of hiccups, especially with the intro. But now, nope. Let's go to the next part, because the next part is even more demanding. But a lot of stuff happening on the display. No stuttering whatsoever, no weird stuff going on with the audio. And this is the reason why I test out the high demanding stuff, because the loads, just the basic stuff, 8-bit, 16-bit runs fine. And you can, by the way, play with a basic Android box. And if you're spending the extra cash on a King Edition, you can see that we're having so much better performance, especially with the high-end stuff. Like stuttering cruise in the USA. That's what we're going to find out. So far so good. This one's so much smoother, but I must say that I've played this game before recording, and we're going to progress in the cities like that's more demanding for the emulator. You notice like we're still going to get some hiccups. So this makes this game just playable, where we're going to get like super conflicts. Even the Max didn't have the power to play this game. But now we can play it, but with some minor hiccups. And then 64 will always be so demanding for these Android boxes that we need a lot of power. And the king is the king on the Android boxes, so far, I know, when I'm making this video, there is nothing better. But even with minor hiccup, I can still enjoy it like this. And now you're thinking, Wicked, why are you talking about hiccups? I don't see anything. Yeah, because it just happens sometimes randomly. Yep. Does it happen now? Nope. Alright, so next up, let's try Sega Saturn. I got so many questions regarding this system, and we finally have a system that runs it decent enough to enjoy. Take consideration, it does use frame skip. Yep. But it doesn't spoil the fun. We can play it. So let's play a little bit of Daytona, and let's see what we're going to get with this. Okay, so the first thing I noticed, by the way, I need to crank up the volume of my television because the sound is very low. And it's a little bit of a bummer. I'm not good at this game at all. I just want to give you a quick gameplay. How I crash. But you can see with this gameplay that the game is actually running pretty good. And again, this is just actually like the first Android box from the Super Conflict series that can run Sega Saturn game three-dimensional games. So let's take a close look at the specifications. So this B-Link device is a quite powerful one, and I think it's the king for the Android boxes from Logic. Oh, don't get me wrong, this thing will not defeat Nvidia Shield in any way, because that is, well, basically still the king. But in overall, like 4 gigs of RAM, 64 GB of internal storage, that's very convenient if you want to use Android itself. A very powerful Mali G52 MP4 GPU, and also has a CPU, an S9 2020X. Alright guys, but basically this is just a GT King, and it's not all that bad to be honest. So the GT King, it's not the king of the Android boxes. And the reason I'm saying not the king, because this thing is pretty damn awesome, but it still has some flaws, especially when it comes to the Android part and watching some Netflix, but I'm not wanted like going deep dive into this. I do love the box. Yeah, it's getting quite hot when you're looking at, let's say, the form factor. It's not like giving a lot of good cooling, where the Super Conflicts try to evolve with special fans, stuff like that. This is just a basic GT King. The potential is that the thing have a lot of power, so you can play a lot of awesome games with a lot of good FPS.